And, I said Derrick Rose, my bad. Kevin Durant had some interesting words to say about the New York Knicks. Um, he said that, it would be, real fun to go up against, the Knicks if they were to meet up in the playoffs. As y'all can tell, history, repeats itself in many ways, you know. Because I remember back in 1999, the Knicks and the Heat were rivals, right? 1999, the Heat had the number one seed, swept us, right? I don't think they swept us like three. Let me see. How many times we faced the Nets? I think we faced them twice. No, we faced them three times. So they swept us all three, right? The Heat swept us all three, all four times. What happened in the playoffs? Now, obviously, people might say, "Well, that's a different generation. That was a different time period." You know, like if you really look who was on the Heat that year, you would understand why. You know, that Heat team was not loaded, but it was pretty good. You know, had the number one seed. Had home court advantage throughout the playoffs, the whole 9 yards. What happened? We punched them in the mouth, right? Now, it's fun to talk about it because a lot of people are not giving the Knicks a puncher's chance against the Nets, you know, because of the offense, if sports is always going to rely on ifs and buts, but, it is what it is. But if, all three of them are playing, yeah, we're averaging what, 113 points a game? And we're allowing the fewest points, which is 108. So imagine if we are holding all three of them under the minimum average, Like, let's say KD scores 17, Kyrie scores 20, James Harden scores 10, or not even 10, they just as a whole, as a collective unit, they just go out there and, brick it up, which is not going to happen, but, hypothetically saying, when you have the best defense in the NBA, it travels, And I say this all the time. Your offensive game shows. Your defensive game never shows because it travels with you, you know? So it don't matter how great you could be great offensively, but if you can't stop a nosebleed, it's going to hurt at the end. Kyrie can go for 40, James Harden can go for 37, Kevin Durant can go for 41, and they'll still lose. Why? Because they can't stop nobody in the paint. Teams like Philly, teams like the Heat, teams like, the Bucks, they can all go big on the Nets and it's a wrap because they got nobody to stop them. Like they literally gave half their roster for James Harden, who plays a lick of defense. Like, let that sink in. All y'all people worrying about is offense, offense. Yes, offense sells in the regular season. It doesn't sell in the playoffs. In the playoffs, you're going to have to play both sides. And Kyrie strikes me as a guy that doesn't necessarily want to play on both ends of the stick. James Harden, same way, because like I said, they put their energy so much on offense. When it comes down to defending, they just let their players blow by them. Because if you give in 100%, if you give in 110% on offense, you would expect the same on defense, right? Like if Kyrie tried to play defense, James Harden tried to play defense, they wouldn't be bad of a unit, but they don't. They put so much emphasis on the offense, it kills them in the back end. You know, that's like a football team. Yeah, we have a great front four, but our secondary is suspect. Like we letting like yeah, we can get after the quarterback, but our cornerbacks can't stop nobody. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like that dynamic or that scenario, if you want to call it that. You know, like yeah, your football team has a great front four. You could they could get after anybody, but the thing is, your secondary sucks. They can't lock nobody down for 5 seconds. Every 5 seconds, somebody's getting blown assignments. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like how the Nets are. The Nets are very good offensively, but they're the worst defensively. Now, are they going to turn it up like people say? No, because they are who they are. You know, like I don't believe in all that turning on the switch bull crap. Like that's just blown. That's just smoke and mirrors. You know, you are who you are. If the Nets was very good defensively, it would have shown throughout the whole entire regular season. You know, like they're not gonna just automatically turn it on in the playoffs, especially with Kyrie coming back. James Hart, like, and James Harden has been the more durable one in there. You know, like I just think that they just, and I think they just getting ready for the playoffs. You know, like they don't even feel like playing that many freaking games, and the NBA need to shut down on this, you know, load management crap because it's killing the competition. Their ratings are going down. You know, like people's actually people's actually paying their hard-earned money to see, their favorite basketball players, and then come to find out, oh, he's out tonight. So why the hell did I pay so much? I mean, I don't know how. I mean, you can get tickets for cheap, but why the hell I pay $130 or $70? Because you, like I said, you can find cheap seats, or cheap ticket prices. Like why the hell I paid $70 just to see a whole bunch of nobodies. Like I came there to see my damn superstar. Like that would be me if I paid 80 or $70 and then I find out Julius Randle's not playing, and Julius Randle's my favorite player. I would have been pissed, you know. So I mean, if he's hurt, I understand, but if he's just resting, I mean. But anyways, man, listen, I had no problem with KD or what KD says. KD says a lot of things that don't make sense half of the time. Uh, he's thin. He's very sensitive person. So anything you say, it'll trigger him. And it's not his fault. Maybe if he had a dad around, he wouldn't be like that. Like I'm pretty sure if you said the same thing to Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, they would have taken that and said, okay, and then they'll show you on the court. You don't run back to Twitter and freaking go back and forth like, come on. But thank God Kobe and MJ grew up in a different era. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not the ones to go back and forth on Twitter. You know, like they'll show you on the court. I say okay. But anyways, man. But like I said, I had no problem with KD said. It's real competition. We will see. You know, we will see. Um, and I guarantee that the Knicks will beat the Nets in the playoffs. That's just my guarantee. Y'all can like it, hate it, whatever have you. Y'all can flood my comments and saying, "Oh, you crazy? You just a biased Knicks fan," stuff like that. I truly believe that because I truly believe in history, and history has a way of repeating itself. It's a saying, you know. Just like all those years that Eli Manning beat, like if you go back to no, hold on. If you go back in history and look at the battles that the Knicks had against the Nets, you would see why the Knicks would always come on top. The Nets was never known for their defense. It was always splashy players, you know? Like, look at their timeline, way before KD, Kyrie, and James Harden got there. Look at their track record. Have they ever had a defensive unit or defensive player that you could say, wow, he dominated that in whole entire franchise? You would probably say Dr. J, but Dr. J wasn't there for that long, you know? You could say Kenyon Martin. You could say Brooke Lopez, who was their longest defensive player, you know? I mean, shoot, if they still had Brooke Lopez, they would have probably been, heavy favorites. But, again, it's just it's just too much. And I hope to God that something really bad happens to them. Well, not literally, but just, in the terms of basketball, like they really suffer a bad defeat, because sometimes, man, it's hard. It's hard. When you have superstars like them, it is hard. You have a rookie head coach that don't know what the hell he's doing. You got a Mike D'Antoni who's only known for his offense, like I said before. So where's the defense is going to come from? I mean, yeah, they might get a block or still here and two, but it's not going to be consistent because they might do it one game and don't show up the next game. You know, Kyrie might play game one, he may miss game two. James Harden might play game three, KD might miss game four. So it's like they're not going to be on the court at the same time. Like, I mean, they have been in the court. They have been on the court at the same time, but they only played I think 7 to 9 games, or just 7 games. So you're not gonna get that much chemistry playing with it just 7 games. The Bucks, the Heat, the Knicks, they have chemistry because they've been playing together. 2018, 2019, 2020, 2007. So they have chemistry, something that the Nets do not have. And y'all crowning them because they're the heavy favorites that never won the championship. I mean, you have a lot of teams that didn't win championships. Clippers, Suns, Timberwolves. But you know what? Clippers in 6. Now I'm just playing. But for real though, Clippers in 6. And what I mean by Clippers in 6, I mean that Clippers in 6 in the finals, they're going to take it to 6 games and they're going to win it. I said 5, but, I don't know, 5, 6. It's going to go to one of those 2 games. Because I truly believe that the Clippers have what it takes. And that's what they've been lacking, last year. No disrespect to Patrick Beverley, but Patrick Beverley is no Rondo, And I think that's what there was lacking. You see DeMarcus Cousins having fun. He wasn't having fun when he was on the Pelicans. He wasn't having fun when he was on the Kings. He wasn't having fun when he was on the Lakers, on the Warriors. But when you see him on the Clippers, he's enjoying himself. He's not causing no problems. He's not doing this. You know what I'm saying? So. And Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, again, they have experience, So, and people is putting the whole weight on Paul George's shoulders. It's not a one-man band, It's 5 guys all together. So if he goes out there and turns into Pandemic P or whatever nickname, meme you want to call him, it's not his fault because of Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel is a defensive mind. He's not an offensive mind. I'm pretty sure if you gave Mike D'Antoni, I'm pretty sure if Mike D'Antoni went to the Pacers, I'm pretty sure Paul George would have been averaging a lot of points. because a defensive head coach cannot be a defensive head coach. You know, it's either you're great on one area or you're poor on another. Frank is very good defensively. He's a terrible offensive mind. Phil Jackson is a very offensive minded, very offensive minded head coach. Greg Popovich, he's probably an all around great head coach. You know, he can coach. He could play. I mean, he could coach defense. He can coach the offense. So you have coaches like that. You know what I'm saying? But again, you see why Carmelo Anthony struggled his years in Denver. You know why? Because Carl was a terrible offensive mind. He was great defensively, but he was terrible. Bosch, whoever his head coach was at the time, obviously it wasn't Nick Nurse, but at the time he was averaging closely to 23 points a game. No, actually it was 17, and then after that he took the next step. But coaches matter. Coaching matters, you know, and I'm sorry, but I think they should have picked Jason Kidd. I think Jason Kidd would have been the heavy on favorites to even land in Brooklyn because he's won a championship. So he can install that championship pedigree into them, you know. Steve, even though they played together, Nash and Kidd, obviously they wanted to build around Jason Kidd. You know, when Nash got drafted in '96, they wanted to build around Steve Nash. I mean, they wanted to build around Jason Kidd. What did they do? They shipped him to Dallas with Dirk, and that didn't even work. You know, and then obviously he went back to Phoenix, and then that's when he had Stoudemire and Sean Marion, and that's still so. Jason Kidd, I mean, Steve Nash also has a bad track record of super teams. So it's a match made in heaven. I'll say that. It's a match made in heaven. So, like I said, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be real fun. It's gonna be real fun. So like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.